even became closer friend when we joined here, and say he was a sincere friend to anybody who was close to him, and say that he was a gentleman par excellence. And for that reason, I would miss adequate words on which to describe him, having been out with him on very many weekends, on social gatherings when we are not busy with those BBI Express rallies, and say that, Mr. Speaker, the country has lost a very hardworking, a very good statesman, and a good friend to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also stand on behalf of my family, who Koinange visited many times, both in Nairobi and at home, on behalf of the people of Homa Bay Town, whom I represent before this House, to condole the family and give them, consolation. Mr. Speaker, I first met Honorable Koinange in the last Parliament, where we had a short stint with him in the Committee on Delegated Legislation. Honorable Speaker, we then came together in this Parliament, in which I was privileged by our party to serve with Honorable Koinange in the Committee on Administration and National Security. Mr. Speaker, we worked very closely. And I remember the last trip of duty Honorable Koinange took in Garissa County, where we went to check the border patrol issues with our police. I was with him. Mr. Speaker, only to say a few things about him. If all the committee chairs in this House could be like Honorable Koinange, then we would be a very good Parliament. This is one chair who believed, and you remember, Honorable Speaker, it goes on record, on his own initiative, started subcommittees to better serve committee and Parliament. And I was privileged, Honorable Speaker, to chair the subcommittee dealing with questions, petitions, and all legislations. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Koinange was always the first MP to come to Parliament and the latest to leave. Members would confirm that as early as 5 a.m. in the morning, you would find Honorable Koinange's car at Continental House. And as late as sometimes the midnight, he would still be there. As his chair of the Committee on Legislation, I asked him why he had decided I should chair that subcommittee, and he told me he was passionate about 5 bills. We have passed some of this, and Honorable Speaker, that was a leader of a committee who recognized that he was leading together with other members. Honorable colleagues, you noted me transacting the refugees bill at the committee stage, not because Honorable Koinange was unable or incapable, but he said, you are chairing that subcommittee, pursue it through. He's passing on, Honorable Speaker, when we have the Narcotics and Psychotropic Substances Amendment Bill, I would request you, Honorable Speaker, and the House business, that we fast-track that bill. We were proffering amendments to the Kenya Coast Guards Act. I would request that, I know how passionate he was about it. May the House leadership, in keeping his legacy, fast-track it. Honorable Speaker, we were looking at ways of ending female genital mutilation and cattle rustling in the country. And there are amendments here directed my subcommittee to process around those lines. Honorable Speaker, I would crave the accommodation of the leadership of the House through you when they come before you. And lastly, Honorable Speaker, was the Nyumba Kumi initiative. It's a very painful thing we have lost him. I remember when we left Garissa, he called me for a public rally in Ruaka, in his constituency. And I'd been to his constituency severally. What a leader the people of Kiambaa have lost. We pray that God may keep him, his soul in eternal peace. But Honorable Speaker, let me also register my gratitude to the members of Parliament for the support they gave Honorable Koinange in his hour of need. Honorable Speaker, when an alarm was raised that Honorable Koinange needed blood, we went there, and all the members of Parliament who went there, their blood could not be taken that day. In fact, we are now to be staggered. I thank the members for being there for him. I thank all members of the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security. Honorable Speaker, what I would pray is that the House and the leadership of the nation and the leadership of Parliament gives us a chair of the committee with whom we can serve as the Committee on Administration and National Security to further those things which Koinange died for. Honorable Speaker, lastly, permit me only to say this. By the time of his passing on, we had gone to 41 counties across the country, meeting the police command, meeting the national government administration officers and seeing their challenges. We were doing a report by the time of his death, which we intended to table here. A report which targeted very fundamental reforms in our police service, and reforms which would conclude the police reforms which we had started. A report which was going to ensure stability in the correctional services, a report which was going to secure that there is complete stability in the the Public Service Commission and all sectors which were under our charge. In keeping with this legacy, all members of the committee knew what we stood for and how passionately he felt about them. When we bring it, Honorable Speaker, may I also request that the members, support us in keeping his legacy on the matters we will set out in that report. May the Almighty God keep the soul of our brother, Honorable Paul Koinange, in eternal peace. We are happy to serve and to keep his legacy. I thank you.
Member for Rangwe, let me just pick a few more, please, and then we can rest.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this chance to represent the great people of Rangwe constituency in mourning with the great Kiambaa constituency. I'm standing here, Honorable Speaker, to mourn a colleague, a man of good repute. Honorable Koinange was one such member of parliament who cut across the board. He did not think of where somebody came from. He did not look at issues that were, problems in parliament, like some people want to segregate others and don't want to talk to them. And when I had issues with insecurity in my own constituency, I approached my colleague member of parliament, and he took it so personal to himself to handle insecurity issues in Rangwe. And as I speak right now, we have a place called Ndiru in Kagan Ward that was a problem like forever. But when Honorable Koinange took it up, he handled it personally, and wherever he is, he should know that Ndiru is fine, and the people of Rangwe and the greater Homa Bay County appreciate him. I mourn with the family of my colleague, friend, and I also pray that as we stay here in Parliament, for those of us who are left behind, COVID is real. COVID is in its bad position right now. I'm told that there are flights that are still coming from India to Kenya, and there is a variant that is so bad that is in India. I don't know what we are going to do about this as a nation, but as we remember our colleague brother, how I pray that we put more stringent measures in especially curbing the importation of very, very bad strains of COVID from other places. May the soul of my brother, my elder brother and friend, rest in peace. May God give his family the peace and the grace and the calm and quiet that they need at this time. Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker. I appreciate you.
Member for Wajir East.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to send a word of condolence to the people of Kiambaa and the family of the late Koinange. Honorable Speaker, I've interacted with the people of Kiambaa and the family of Koinange way before many years ago, around 1975. When my brother, who was a member of parliament then, was a member of the committee, of JM committee then, and Honorable Koinange then, who was the member of parliament and advisor to His Excellency Kenyatta, was adversely mentioned. So from then, the people of Kiambaa happened to be a good friend of ours from that time. And then followed up by the Karumes, who also are members of representative of that committee. Nonetheless, I've interacted with Honorable Koinange when he was the chair of this committee of security. Honorable Chair, Honorable Speaker, my constituency has been bedeviled with a lot of insecurity, and for that matter, the people of Al-Shabaab attack, and a lot of insecurity has been happening in my constituency then. I remember vividly Honorable Duale, who was then a majority leader, and I and Koinange sat down together to discuss issues of insecurity in my constituency and the border of Wajir with Somalia. And Honorable Koinange was very, very useful as far as our relationship and connection and discussions on the matter of insecurity in our area, the issues of KPR, the issues of placement of security in various areas in my constituency. He was extremely very helpful. I remember vividly once again, Honorable Speaker, lately I brought a petition into the House regarding the arbitrary arrest of a number of members of my committee, of my constituents, about eight persons who are missing and have been arrested by security agencies, and they have still been missing. I brought a petition to this House, yet we are supposed to get an answer. And I remember Honorable Koinange was following up that issue seriously on that matter. And I still beg Kaluma and the rest of the members and the Vice Chair to pursue vehemently so that I can be able to get an insight onto those missing persons which Honorable Koinange was missing. And I will be very glad that if they follow the steps of Honorable Koinange, we will be able to get a solution for a number of issues that have been bedeviled, as particularly issues of insecurity. Further to that, Honorable Speaker, give me an opportunity. Honorable Koinange and Kaluma and other members have visited my constituency, Wajir East, Wajir Town, and I spent a whole night and stayed the whole day so that they can be able to understand the challenges the security officers are having in Wajir, particularly for those housing the police stations, which have not been repaired for many years. It was dilapidated, the police station was a colonial police station, and they looked at all those issues, particularly on the armaments and all those placements. So I'm very keen, and I'm really touched by their visit, and yet they were supposed to give a report, and I think before they were able to complete that tour of Wajir and many parts of this country, and they will be able to give a report, he has left us. But I'm glad that he was a very humble man, a very good man, a very old man, a very sincere politician who was given an eye and an ear to every member of parliament in this house. Thank you very much, and I say, go well, and God bless you.
Finally, member for Tharaka.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, allow me also to join the rest of our colleagues in sending very sincere, most heartfelt condolences to the family, the extended family of the late Senior Chief Koinange Wambio upon the demise of his grandson, Honorable Paul Koinange. Honorable Paul Koinange was an astute parliamentarian here. He actually stood out amongst the rest, and especially when it came to delivering services to the House and being the link between the House and the Executive. I personally admired Honorable Paul Koinange and the way he went about doing his duties, especially as he read to us statements from the Executive regarding our requests on various issues of security and the national administration. Honorable Paul Koinange was a friend to all of us. He was actually a very amiable person who was a friend to each and every member. He was quite affable when it came to asking him to assist where there were problems. You would never get a no from Honorable Paul Koinange, but he was always smiling, soft-spoken, and ready to assist each one of us in whatever problems we had. We have actually lost one of our best legislators in the country, and as such, we have to join the family in mourning him. May his soul rest in eternal peace. Thank you.
Very, very last member for Ainab Koi.
Mr. Speaker, sir, permit me to offer my message of condolence to the family of Paul Koinange particularly Mary, June, the children, and the entire Kiambaa constituency. Paul Koinange, members of parliament, was indeed a great legislator. He was a statesman and he was steadfast. Paul's level of energy was indeed incredible, amazing, and remarkable. He advanced legislation and policy intervention in peace, unity, and tranquility in our own country. I want to say, since he served the nerve system of this nation, he was very humble and he was very loyal to His Excellency the President, who is also the 5-star general according to Article 131C. Paul Koinange treasured his work. Indeed, he was campaigning for BBI. Having said that, he was involved in peace, intervention, mediation in Southern Sudan, and it came to pass. In 1971, Paul Koinange was employed as a DO, like me, so he served in national administration. Therefore, he served this nation with commitment, dedication, and indeed devotion. He has left behind sense of humility, sense of hard work, and sense of sweat in this republic. Their family struggled for the struggle of independence for Kenya. And I've seen people wanting to inherit. In 1832, in the United Kingdom legislation, they didn't want inheritance. So it is all about competence, it's all about democracy, and I want to remind members of parliament that leadership comes from God. It is not by chance. It is a calling from God. Mr. Speaker, sir, since you are third in command in the Republic, and you are a gentle giant, and I'm urging honorable members of parliament that let's have a committed servant like Paul Koinange, who used to be in work at 5 o'clock, and he used to mingle. He used to buy tea and mandasi, like me, Chepkut, a very humble person. So we were together with our great friend, permit me, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank you most sincerely. We were with Kaluma. For the first time, we all cried. Kaluma cried. We all fell down, even our vice chair. We were tight. When my people, the late Ibrahim was killed, he intervened and he sent homicides, instructed George Kinoti, and he came. And those who created all those ugly incidents were arrested. So I'm urging members of parliament, let's not be in a hurry. We want to have a competent, humble, and humane chairman like Paul Koinange. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm seeing great things coming to you. Let's all kneel down, because we are only 1 year to election. You are a great man, Speaker. You are a great man. And when Jeff Kut speaks, don't dismiss me, don't ignore me, don't even underrate. I've prayed God, and God will answer. And I want to urge members of parliament that God's favor, God's mercy, and God's grace surpasses all human understandings. Even it surpasses instruments of power. Kaluma, you can tell the ODM people, as much as His Excellency Raila Odinga is 77 years, he is no longer greedy. The late father of Honorable Biwott in 2007, all Kalenjins voted for Raila, and we called him Arab Mipe then. Therefore, they said all what Raila wants is just suit and to be given salute, and that's all. So he doesn't have any creed. So me personally, Speaker, even I called him and he returned my call. He answered. And many cabinet secretaries, Speaker, sir, they don't answer phones. They just dismiss us. But we are great people in this republic. We create laws and we oversight. And we as members of parliament, we are told times observe doctrine of transparency, doctrines of accountability, and we are number one. We are that in command. Therefore, we vet all of them. Mr. Speaker, sir, with those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, sir, the legislation of refugees and anyway, and coast cards and so on and so forth, let's pass it into law in its recognition. Mr. Speaker, sir, you know I'm humble, I'm tight, so at times, you know now, Biwott and Moi and Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, they are all there. And when Jonathan Moi died, it is me, Speaker, we gave you a message of condolence, and Paul Koinange. So we are doing great job. As much as you don't even tell us, we always talk on your behalf. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and may God bless you.
Very well. Very well. I think on a special sitting, on a day for special sitting, that should now conclude the tributes to our fallen colleagues, the late Honorable Paul Koinange. Honorable members, I can see there are still several requests, but I think in the interest of time and the business which was gazetted for transaction, we will stop there and move on to the next order.
Order number 8, consideration of a petition on the removal of a member of the Media Council of Kenya.
Honorable Kisang, the Chairman of Committee on Communication, Information and Innovation.
Honorable Speaker, I need protection, Honorable Speaker.
No, order members, order. Please.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that, taking into consideration the findings of the Departmental Committee on Communication, Information and Innovation in its report on the consideration of a petition regarding removal from the office of Ms. Tabitha Mutemi as a member of the Media Council of Kenya, laid on the table of the House on March 30th, 2021, and pursuant to the provisions of Section 14(3) of the Media Council Act 2013, this House finds that the petition has submitted discloses sufficient grounds as contemplated under Section 14(1) of the Media Council Act 2013, and resolves to submit the complaint to the Cabinet Secretary for Information, Communication and Technology and Youth Affairs in accordance with Section 14(3) of the Media Council Act 2013. Honorable Speaker, the petition by Miruki Muriungi, an advocate of the High Court regarding removal of Ms. Tabitha as a member of the Media Council Act, was conveyed by you on 11th of March 2021 and consequently referred to our committee for consideration and tabling in the House within 7 days in accordance with the provisions of Section 14.3 of the Media Council Act number 46 of 2013. Honorable Speaker, the time was very short, and on 26 we requested as a committee for 14 more days because we are going for 25th for a short recess, and the House granted us 14 days. Honorable Speaker, that is why in this special sitting the matter has come up for discussion. Honorable Speaker, the petition averred that Ms. Tabitha was ineligible for appointment as a member of the Media Council of Kenya by dint of Section 16 of the IBC Act, as read with Section 2.1 of the fourth schedule thereof, which stipulates that an IBC employee, it's good for members to listen to this, that an IBC employee shall not be eligible for appointment to another public office. This is basically, that's what the law says. Honorable Speaker, the petitioner contended that Ms. Tabitha Muthemi's appointment to the Media Council of Kenya was also in violation of circular number OP/CAB.19/1A, dated 18th of October 2019, from the Executive Office of the President, which prohibits the appointment of public officers to serve as independent members of boards unless the enabling law specifically provides for the same. Further, Honorable Speaker, Article 77(1) of the Constitution restricts full-time state officers from participating in any other gainful employment. Honorable Speaker, the other ground advanced by the petitioner for the removal was that of gross misconduct, based on the allegation that Ms. Tabitha derived advice from the Principal Secretary, Minister of ICT, Innovation and Youth Affairs by a letter dated 16 September 2020 that she should not hold two public offices and that she had to choose one by 30th September 2020. Honorable Speaker, without providing further particulars, the petitioner also alleged in support of the gross misconduct ground that Ms. Tabitha derived a lawful instruction from the Office of the Chief of Staff and the Head of Public Service, the Office of the Attorney General, and the IBC Chairperson. Honorable Speaker, in summary, the grounds for the removal of Ms. Tabitha were three. A, ineligibility of Ms. Tabitha Muthemi for appointment as a council member by dint of being an employee of IBC, breach of written laws, the Constitution, and government policy in her appointment, and then C, gross misconduct for failure to adhere to lawful directions by her superiors and appointing authority. Honorable Speaker, the petitioner therefore prayed that the petition be dealt with immediately in view of the urgency and gravity of the matter, issues raised. 2, National Assembly within 7 days from the date of receipt of the petition considers the complaint, and if satisfied, for removal to submit the complaint together with recommendations to the Cabinet Secretary for suspension of Ms. Tabitha Muthemi and the appointment of a tribunal to consider, and if it discloses sufficient grounds for removal, recommends to the Cabinet Secretary to remove Ms. Tabitha from office in accordance with Section 14 of the Media Council Act. Honorable Speaker, Section 14 of the Media Council Act number 46 of 2013 regulates the removal of a chairperson or a member of the board of the Media Council of Kenya. Section 14.1 provides for the grounds of removal as follows: violation of the Constitution or any other written law, including contravention of Chapter 6 of the Constitution, gross misconduct, physical or mental incapacity that leads to inability to perform the functions of the office, incompetence or neglect of duty, bankruptcy, absence from 3 consecutive meetings of the council without justifiable cause, if the chairperson or a member becomes a director of any media enterprise or owns shares or has any other interest in a corporation partnership, or body directly or through another person, if holding those shares or having interest would result in a conflict of interest with the officer's official duties. Honorable Speaker, if the chairperson or member is convicted of a criminal offense and sentenced to imprisonment for a period more than 6 months. Honorable Speaker, it's noteworthy that the procedure for removal of a chairperson or a member of the Media Council of Kenya involves the following process as stipulated by the law: submission of petition to National Assembly, that's what we are doing now, deliberation by the National Assembly, and if the petition discloses ground for removal, recommendations are sent to the Cabinet Secretary. The Cabinet Secretary appoints a tribunal after suspending the chairperson or the member. Tribunal deliberates, and if the person's petition discloses grounds for removal, then the tribunal recommends to the Cabinet Secretary for removal. Honorable Speaker, in considering the petition, the committee wrote to various stakeholders requesting them. It was also put in the papers. We advertised to give written submissions as pertaining the petition. The submissions were required to be submitted to the committee on or before 23rd March 2020. Honorable Speaker, we received submissions from Ms. Tabitha herself, the Attorney General, the Head of Public Service, the Editors Guild, the Kenya Union of Journalists, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, and the Kenya Correspondents Association. Honorable Speaker, at the onset, I wish to inform this House that the committee wrote a letter dated 17 March 2021 to Ms. Tabitha enclosing the petition by Mr. Muriuki in order to afford an opportunity to respond to the petitioner's grounds for removal. The committee wrote written submissions because physical meeting was untenable due to escalation of COVID-19 cases, especially in the month of March. And as members will recall, the positivity rate at that particular time had gone up to over 26%. By the positivity rate of over 26%. By the time His Excellency made a proclamation on 26 March to partially close basically 5 counties. In addition, there was the statutory period of considering the petition within 7 days. That's why we had sought that request for additional 14 days. Honorable Speaker, earlier on 3rd March, the committee had received a complaint, and we considered a complaint by Ms. Tabitha Mutemi on similar matters. That particular time it was complaint, but it's the same issue. Even though there was no proper petition before the committee for removal, the committee invited Tabitha and her legal counsel to appear before the committee, and all the other stakeholders came, that included the Editors Guild, the Solicitor General, the Media Council, amongst others. Honorable Speaker, the committee was able to appreciate the issue from the presentations and ultimately a finding that the CEO of the Media Council could not lawfully remove a member of the board, as it was alleged by the letter. And in that meeting, it was agreed that Tabitha be reinstated on the WhatsApp group for the board members, and up to today, as we speak, Tabitha is still a board member of the Media Council of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, back to the petition before this House, with respect to the first ground relating to ineligibility of Ms. Tabitha for appointment as a member by the instead of being an employee of IBC, the committee observed the following. One, that Tabitha Mutemi submitted that state corporations and parastatals are not offices in the public service because they are neither offices in the national government nor county government as defined by the Constitution. She stated that the remuneration of chairpersons and members of state corporations and parastatals are not directly drawn from the consolidated fund or directly by Parliament, and therefore the positions of chairperson and members of the boards are not offices in the public service, which is not true. The Office of the Attorney General submitted that public service is defined in Article 260 of the Constitution as the collectivity of all individuals other than state officers performing a function within a state organ, while a state organ is defined as a commission. So those ones are basically in the law. The Honorable Speaker, the head of public service submitted that Mr. Tabitha was indicated as being an employee of IPC and as such in the service of the national government. The IPC is not listed as member of the board of MCK, so she doesn't go to the board as a representative of IPC. And Mr. Tabitha is not designated as a representative therefore. Consequently, and by virtue of the Mwongozo Code of Governance and the circular OC CAP 91 I had stated of 3rd April 2016, Ms. Tabitha would be ineligible to serve as an independent board member of the Media Council. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission submitted the section 16 of the IBC Act states that members and employees of the Commission shall subscribe to the Code of Conduct under the 4th Schedule. Section 21B of the 4th Schedule prohibits members and employees of the Commission from holding other public offices during the tenure of the office with the Commission. The Commission is also guided by Article 77(1) of the Constitution as expounded by Section 52(1) and 2 of the Leadership and Integrity Act, which prohibits a full-time state or public officer from participating in any other gainful employment. So it's important that members note this clearly. Consequently, Ms. Tabitha Mutemi's appointment as board member to MCK is not viable while still in the employment of IBC as pronounced by the laws. Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Section 14(3) of the Media Council Act, the committee, having considered the complaint, was satisfied that the submissions of the Office of the Attorney General, the Public Service, and IBC discloses a ground for removal from office for Ms. Tabitha Mutemi on the first ground, which is ineligibility of Ms. Tabitha for appointment as a council member of Media Council of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, with respect to the second ground relating to breach of written laws, the Constitution and government policy in appointment, the committee observed that Ms. Tabitha submitted that prior to presentation of the report to the Cabinet Secretary, the selection panel, through the exercise of an abundance of caution, sought the advisory of the Attorney General on whether public officers could serve on the board of the Council. The Attorney General, in an advisory referred in the report of the selection panel, confirmed that public officers could serve on the Council and submitted the report of the selection panel for the positions of chairperson and member of the Media Council. The Office of the Attorney General submitted that the said legal opinion concerned the question on whether the prohibition on multiple directorship in Mwongozo. Honorable Speaker, I might need some additional 2 minutes because I have seen the light is, I'm given a warning of 1 minute. Honorable Speaker, I ask for 2-3 more minutes. Honorable Speaker, maybe I just need to go to the end and, because, you know, I was giving all this background so that members understand. Honorable Speaker, the head of public service.
Proceed, 2 more minutes only.
Okay, 2 more minutes. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
To conclude.
The head of public service submitted that Article 260 of the Constitution defines a public officer, basically which we've done that. Honorable Speaker, as a committee, we know basically The reason why there's this elaborate move to remove a member of the Media Council, it's because in 2013 we passed the Media Council Act to make it difficult to remove a member unless they are grounds. That's why it was anticipated that if there is a reason to remove a member, then they have to go through a tribunal. And then, Honorable Speaker, that is, all these reasons that I've given, Honorable Speaker, the committee, in its own wisdom and from the reasons that we've advanced and the law, that's why we find that the Media Council Act provides for safeguards to ensure this elaborate move is taken to ensure a member is not just removed easily. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Section 14.3 of the Media Council Act, having considered the petition, detailed submissions, and evidence presented in writing, the committee is satisfied and finds that the complaints contained in the petition relating to the ABC eligibility, breach of written laws, gross misconduct, discloses grounds for removal of a member of the board of Media Council of Kenya, and recommends that the complaint be submitted to the Cabinet Secretary for Minister of Information, Communication and Technology and Youth Affairs for appropriate action in accordance with the provisions of Section 14.3 and 4 of the Media Council Act, number 46 of 2013. I move, Honorable Speaker, and request Honorable Anthony Olwoj to second.
Go to second.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to second this petition and support the findings of the committee. And it is important, Honorable Speaker, from the very onset that we understand the role of Parliament is very limited when a petition like this is presented to it. And Parliament, through the committee, is required to do just two things. Number one, to consider the petition, and secondly, to establish prima facie or on the face of it, if grounds have been established for removal. And in doing so, it is important that we underscore that the committee makes no finding of guilt or no finding of culpability, only to the extent that it establishes that grounds exist. When those grounds have been established, and we found that those grounds have been established, the duty then of the committee is to make a recommendation that a tribunal be formed. Secondly, Honorable Speaker, it is important to note that at the point where a tribunal is established, the tribunal then will have a duty to call the evidence, to listen in depth to the parties, including the person who would be affected and the petitioner, and then to find whether it is proper and indeed within the law to proceed with the removal. This petition, Honorable Speaker, it is important to note, was anchored on 3 or 4 main key issues which I want to highlight. And before I do, Honorable Speaker, it is important to note that we received submissions from IEBC, who are the employers of Tabitha Mutemi. IEBC invoked the provisions of their Section 16 and indicated that in terms of the code of conduct that Tabitha Mutemi signed as part of an employee of IEBC, an employee of IEBC shall not undertake any other gainful employment while still holding office as a member of IEBC. Honorable Speaker, the question as to whether the membership of the board of the Media Council constitutes gainful employment was not the duty of this committee to delve into. That is now remitted to the tribunal at the time that they will be considering in full on merits the petition before it. It will be their duty then to determine whether that constitutes gainful employment or it is not gainful employment. Honorable Speaker, we were invited to look or to consider that grounds existed to find that there was gross violation not only of the Constitution but of other written laws. These provisions of the Constitution that were brought to our attention include Article 77. Article 77 of the Constitution, Honorable Speaker, places a restriction or caveat on any public officer during the time or tenure of their employment to engage in any other form of employment. Honorable Speaker, Article 77 of the Constitution is also to be read together with Section 52, 1 and 2 of the Leadership and Integrity Act. The Leadership and Integrity Act at Sections 52 reads almost in similar terms as Article 77 of the Constitution, and in short, it is a prohibition. It is a prohibition on any public officer who holds office to engage in other forms of gainful employment. Honorable Speaker, the head of the public service made submissions, and in making submissions, the head of the public service drew our attention to Article 260 of the Constitution. And Article 260 of the Constitution defines a public officer, Honorable Speaker, to mean the office in the national government, county government, or public office service if the remuneration and benefits of that office are payable directly from the consolidated funds or out of the monies provided by Parliament. Honorable Speaker, the monies payable to IEBC for its staff and other operations are drawn from the consolidated fund and monies that are appropriated from Parliament. So, Honorable Speaker, based on that and the many representations we received, both from the Media Council, the IEBC, and other stakeholders in the industry, I want to underscore that the committee found that there existed prima facie, on the face of it, grounds for the removal. And I want to repeat again that the committee did not make a finding of guilt or of culpability. This is now remitted to the tribunal for purposes of determining the merits of the case. 1 second to second.
I'll give you an additional 2 minutes, Honorable Oluoch.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Based on those recommendations and the many representations that were made to us, we were also drawn, Honorable Speaker, to the Mwongozo Act and the circular that also underscores what is in the provisions of Sections 52 of the Leadership and Integrity Act. The Mwongozo Act is also a mirror of Article 77 of the Constitution. It also mirrors Section 16 of the IEBC Act. So having listened to all this, the committee's duty was then very simple, not to pass a finding of guilt, but to say that on a balance, we think that there is something to be inquired into. It is now the duty of the tribunal, if this House will agree with us, to decide on the merits and to give both the petitioner and Tabitha Mutemi fair hearing in terms of Article 47 of the Constitution and the Fair Administrative Actions Act. I therefore, Honorable Speaker, thank you, and I second.
What's happening in the House that members have forgotten the rules of the House? That is a report which has been moved, seconded. Why are you raising up your hands? The question has to be proposed, isn't it? You don't put. Where did you go to school? On parliamentary procedures, please. You know, please, we must propose a question. Do I see the desire of the member who is here to remain standing? Honour members, no, don't just remain there. Just remain there. I propose a question which is that taking into consideration the findings of the Departmental Committee on Communication, Information and Innovation in its report on the consideration of a petition regarding removal from office of Ms. Tabitha Mutemi as a member of the Media Council of Kenya, laid on the table of the House on March 30th, 2021, pursuant to the provisions of Section 14, Subsection 3 of the Media Council Act of 2013, this House finds that the petition, as submitted, discloses sufficient grounds as contemplated under Section 14, Subsection 1 of the Media Council Act 2013, and resolves to submit the complaint to the Cabinet Secretary for Information, Communication and Technology and Youth Affairs in accordance with Section 14, Subsection 3 of the Media Council Act 2013. Honour members, the report has just been moved. Can I? Can we hear? Let me hear a few members. Then I will be able to gauge the mood. What's out of order, Honourable Junet?
Mr. Speaker, this is a special sitting, Mr. Speaker. This is not an ordinary sitting, Mr. Speaker. We have the Division of Revenue Bill, we have the BBI, we have many serious matters to discuss, Mr. Speaker. These are peripheral matters, Mr. Speaker. I'm requesting, Mr. Speaker, you put a question, Mr. Speaker.
Honour members, I quite agree with the Honourable Junet that this is a special sitting, but fortunately, in the Gazette notice calling for this sitting, this is one of the business to be transacted. Let me give the opportunity to, let me hear what members have to say, even if whatever the case. Remember, no, there's a member who submitted. Member for Kadhiani. Honorable Robert Mbui, yes. Member for Kadhiani, yes. Yes, Honorable Mbui.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I would also like to agree with the Honorable Junet that this is not a major issue. It's a very small issue and that we need to dispense with it as quickly as possible because we have serious business, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, looking at this case and when you look at that report, clearly I think we may be spending a lot of time of this Parliament and taxpayers on a very minor issue. Mr. Speaker, the accusations that have come on this matter are very minor, Mr. Speaker, because this is a person who was appointed, who's a director in IBC, then applies for a position that has been advertised and to take up as a member of a board in MCK, and then gets that appointment. Mr. Speaker, why would we belabor and spend energy fighting and to remove such a person? Because, Mr. Speaker, there are many, many ways by which people can be removed. We don't want to spend Parliament time discussing an individual. Mr. Speaker, you can be in IBC and become a chair of a board of a school in your constituency. Does that become illegal? Does Parliament have to sit here and discuss that matter? Mr. Speaker, if you look at this thing, there are even precedents, Mr. Speaker. Clearly, there are precedents. There are other IBC commissioners or directors who have also served in boards. One served, I think, in the Salaries and Remuneration Committee and with approval of IBC. So, Mr. Speaker, this is something I believe is very malicious. And I think the best thing to do is just put the question, we finish with this matter. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Put the question.
Member for Moranga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I just want to join my colleagues because it is not fair for this House to take on issues that seem to be very malicious and petty. Mr. Speaker, it is important to just mention to this House that Ms. Tabitha is she's a corporate affairs and events manager at IBC, and the position that the committee has presented today is a part-time basis position and not a formal employment. And Ms. Tabitha is there out of her experience being in the media industry, and it's good I also, Mr. Speaker, disclosed that I've been in the media industry. And she's only there to give her advice to the council. This is not a formal employment, Mr. Speaker. I don't want to go into the details because, Mr. Speaker, a process was followed. This position was advertised. Mr. Speaker, even when she was given the position, it was gazetted, and the details are there. 2 years down the line, what could have happened? Let us not engage into boardroom fights here in the Parliament. We need, Mr. Speaker, to rise beyond those boardroom fights. And it's wrong for committees of this House to be involved in such issues, Mr. Speaker. I would like to put up to the committee, was even the lady invited to appear, when she was told to give a written submission, she begged to be given a chance to appear, even if it's virtually. She was denied an opportunity. How then do we come up to a conclusion and we say the position is illegal? And we know the CS and even the unions are in support of her expertise in that part-time job. Mr. Speaker, I urge this House we reject the report and we move on to some more serious businesses that we have in this House. I submit, Mr. Speaker.
Now, honour members, you know, you need to familiarize yourselves with Article 119 of the Constitution regarding petitions. It does not mean that there is a mistake. If anybody petitions the House on any matter that is within its power, and it is important, within its power, then the House cannot decline to have the matter considered by the relevant committee. However, what the decision of the committee arrives at is an entirely different matter. And therefore, I wanted to correct the member from Muranga. It is, when a petition is brought, as long as it meets the criteria for petitions, it would be a dereliction of duty on the part of the Speaker not to refer the matter to a committee. As you know, the Speaker has no vote, and therefore, if the Speaker were to, without referring the matter to a committee, reject a petition, it will be exercising some vote. So it is a committee that really has to make the decision once the matter is referred to it. Let me hear a member of the committee, the Honorable Osotsi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I'm a member of the ICT committee, and I had given my dissenting opinion to this, to the majority members' report, on the basis, Mr. Speaker, that we had procedural gaps in the way the committee conducted this matter. Because, Mr. Speaker, when you gave direction to this committee to look at this matter, I remember, Mr. Speaker, you said that the process of removal of a person from public office is quasi-judicial in nature. And therefore, all steps must be taken to make sure that judicious attention and moderation is considered. Mr. Speaker, this committee requested for more time. And I remember I seconded that motion requesting for more time to consider this matter. But when the committee sat, we took only 2 hours to dispense with this matter. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, you know this matter first appeared before the committee as a complaint. Then the committee made a decision that they could not act on a complaint, they required a petition. Strangely, a petition was lodged. And before that petition was logged, there was a previous petition by the Editors Guild, which strangely, it was not committed to the committee. We never looked at it. But this particular one by an individual who, in the committee's wisdom, was never even asked to appear before the committee. So we made a decision on a petition by a petitioner who never appeared before us, We could not confirm his identity, and for that matter, Mr. Speaker, I said I will not support a process that has procedural gaps. Mr. Speaker, when you are looking for a petition for a removal of a person from office, you need to consider all material facts before you. This is a house of record, and this is a house of procedure. We had a number of materials before us. First of all, the materials that came as a complaint. These materials were not considered. And I raised this matter before the committee, and the committee overruled me that we only consider the petition as it is. Any other matter that came via complaint was not going to be considered. And I thought, Mr. Speaker, any matter that comes to this House and is recorded as material before the House must be used to make a determination on a similar matter. Mr. Speaker, the petitioner, it is important that the petitioner should have been invited, either virtually or physically, to appear before the committee. That was not done, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this person, Tapita Muchemi, made some reasonable requests to the committee, some information to be given. She was not given. She made a request that Hansard of 3rd March 2021 be provided to her. That request was not honored. She made a request that the evidence of one, Eric Oduor, who was the chair of the selection panel that selected her to sit on that board, she was not given. He made also a request for evidence of the Solicitor General in the case of Katiba Institute and others versus the Attorney General. That information was not given. Mr. Speaker, looking at all the issues, you could clearly see that the committee did not consider all the material facts that were required to make a decision in this matter. And for that matter, Mr. Speaker, I decided to write a dissent report. But Mr. Speaker, when I read the report that has been tabled before this House, it does not contain my dissent report. Instead, it talks about the committee having looked at my dissent opinion, made a decision. I want to say before this House, the committee never met to decide on my dissent opinion. Ordinarily, when a member dissents, that report must be attached to the main report, so that when it appears before the House,
Member for Gotv Central. Member for Gotv Central. Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want also to add my voice to this important petition. And Honorable Speaker, I've taken time to look at the report. And when I looked at the report, Honorable Speaker, I've identified a number of gaps which the committee could have considered. I just want very quickly, because of time, to mention them. Honorable Speaker, when this member was nominated to the board, it was gazetted, and that was public knowledge. So that means IABC was aware of this matter for the last 2 years. How come today they are saying they were not aware? To me, that should have been considered by the committee. The second issue, Mr. Speaker, is the issue of the Media Council board. When you look at their act, it is clearly stated who should be a member of that council. So, Honorable Speaker, if you say you form a committee and you say these are the members, it means anybody else outside the membership is not a member. The same way, in a situation where they say this should be the members, it means anybody outside that bracket can become a member because they are saying so and so cannot be a member. So I get worried, Honorable Speaker, when I see somebody who is a member and it falls within the bracket of those who should be members being punished for being a member. The third issue, Honorable Speaker, is the issue of permanent employment and part-time. Honorable Speaker, most of us here have been board members in parastatus. And you only earn a sitting allowance. And if you look at the Mongoose, Honorable Speaker, it says you can only meet 4 times in a year. So the question is, part-time employment, is it equal to permanent employment? And I think the answer to that, Mr. Speaker, is no. So on that basis, Honorable Speaker, there are so many public servants who are public officers who are serving boards, and they are not being punished basically because it's a part-time employment. And the other thing, Honorable Speaker, is as a board member, you only provide strategic direction to an organization. You are not a day-to-day operator. You only go there when they are meeting, you discuss policy issues, and you go back to your position. So, Honorable Speaker, I think this is unfair. And Honorable Speaker, there is this issue of the Media Council. And the question is it a parastatal just like we have KRA, just as we have any other government parastatal? And I think the answer is no, Honorable Speaker. Because to some extent, this is an independent body taking care of the interest of the media fraternity. And if you look at all the submissions by the unions, the media unions, they are saying, Mr. Speaker, they have no objection to this particular member being a member of the board. So, Honorable Speaker, to me, I think what is happening in this place is that somebody is running away from accountability. This CEO of this organization, Honorable Speaker, I must come out clearly. I think he doesn't want to be held accountable. And the committee is now assisting the CEO to run away from accountability. Honorable Speaker, I think this is very unfair to this country.